The halfling rogue Bree Greenbottle and her companions race through Neverwinter Wood, pursued by an army of orcs. A javelin whistles past Bree's ear. Needles, sharp as thorns, rain down from the monstrous vine blights flanking the orc horde. With a mischievous grin, Bree darts deeper into the forest, leading her pursuers on a merry chase and buying her friends time to escape. Hey there, adventurers. My name is Judd, and this is Short Rest Studios. Maybe you and your D&D players are getting tired of the same old combat slogs, and it's time to try something new. You need to introduce a skill challenge. Recently, my players were caught sneaking out of an orc hideout near Neverwinter Wood, having discovered that these orcs planned to raid a defenseless settlement nearby. They had limited time to warn the target and help them defend themselves, and in the process of trying to escape the hideout, they discovered an entire army. I wanted to do something different here, and after asking around, I decided the skill challenge would present my players with something new and exciting. It wouldn't just be combat roles, and it would allow them to play facets of their characters that they don't usually get to play in a 5e game. So what is a skill challenge? Now, don't go looking for skill challenges in your current DM's guide. This is a mechanic from 4th edition that I discovered via a great Matt Colville video on the subject, which I'll link to in the description. A skill challenge allows you and your party to resolve situations through the use of your character's skills instead of combat or roleplay. And actually, it does kind of involve some roleplay in the action. And it's also collaborative. Every member of the party gets a chance to contribute to achieving the desired outcome. How does a skill challenge work? Step 1, during session prep, you, the DM, set the difficulty of the challenge. You do this by determining how many successes the party will need to win the challenge and how many failures will be allowed before they lose. A good rule of thumb for successes is 3 for an easy challenge, 5 for medium, or 6 or more for a hard one. For failures, I think you should stick with 3. I don't think there's really any reason to adjust the number of failures as well, unless you're, really sadistic.
Only a tiny bit sadistic.
If you do happen to be that sadistic, keep in mind that failures work in reverse. The fewer failures allowed, the harder the challenge. For example, in my party's forest chase, the goal was to outrun the orc horde so they could warn people about the upcoming raid. I wanted it to be challenging, but not crazy hard, and I wanted to make sure everyone got a chance to shine. So I set it at 6 successes and 3 failures. Step 2, at the appropriate time during the game, announce the skill challenge. Chances are this is going to be something new for your players, so just go ahead and explain the objective. Tell them step by step how things are going to go. Tell them how many successes are needed and how many failures are allowed. Then give them some examples of skills they could use and what they could do with them. For example, someone with survival could find a hidden trail that'll lead them away from the pursuers, or someone with stealth could hide, or like Bree Greenbottle, somebody with deception could lead the pursuers away from the rest of the party. But the key is to encourage your players to be creative. Let them look over their skills and think of creative ways to use them. And remember to reward their creativity. If they suggest something that you didn't think of, or even something that seems a little too out there, go ahead and say yes.
I say no when it feels so good to say yes.
Step 3, run each check in turn order. What's your turn order? Well, the idea in our forest chase example is that all this is kind of happening at once. It doesn't really matter. So I just start with the person to my immediate left and I go around the table. Each person says what they're going to do. Then the DM, me in this case, says yes or no, leaning heavily towards saying yes, and then determines the DC, and the player rolls a d20, adding their modifier for that particular skill that they're going to use. In these skill challenges, and in fact, anytime we do skill checks in our games, I only allow a character who has that particular skill to make that check. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. Don't let your player with 0 ability in deception try to make a deception roll to do something like lead their pursuers down the wrong path. I think that kind of takes away from the challenge and takes away from the opportunity to role play it. Now, a couple things about setting the DC for these individual checks. It's really easy to be a little too arbitrary with these. My rule of thumb is usually 12 to 15. I don't want it to be impossible, but I also don't want it to be easy. If it's under 12, why even roll? Then you just keep going around the table until the party succeeds or fails at the overall challenge. Now here's a bonus. To add a little extra risk to the skill challenge, I had the pursuing orcs and vine blights attack as they were chasing the party. After each player's turn, I'd alternate between the two types of enemies, having the orcs roll once for a javelin attack or the vine blights roll once for a needle attack. Anyone whose AC was under that attack roll took damage. They missed a lot, but you don't have to do this one. So how about some creative examples for how players can use their skills? Athletics. They could attempt to climb trees and make their own shortcut through the forest canopy. Sounds ridiculous, but it's creative, and how much fun would it be to outrun the orcs through the treetops? Nature or survival. They could find a hidden path through the woods, giving them a leg up on the pursuers. Perception. Somebody with a keen eye could spot hazards ahead, allowing the party to avoid them and maybe lead the pursuers into them. Stealth. The party uses the dense foliage to their advantage, vanishing into the undergrowth to lose their pursuers. History. With a successful history check, a player might remember a forgotten passage from an ancient text that reveals a hidden escape route through the wood. Don't be afraid to let your players think outside the box. Skills can be used in unconventional ways, or dare I say, ways that don't actually jibe with the rules. Our rogue used deception to lead the orcs astray. Deception in the rules seems to be reserved for verbal uses like lying, but it fit the situation and the character, and to my mind, deception works in that case. So she took her shot. If the player can explain how they think it should work and how it will help achieve the goal, I say, why not? I'd love to hear your stories of skill challenges, whether they were successful or went totally and hilariously awry. In fact, I might like those better. So drop them in the comments. Skill challenges are a great way to showcase your character's ingenuity and teamwork. They add a layer of excitement to exploration and problem solving beyond just rolling dice for combat.